I mean, we had that in Fallout. We had that in Rogue. And I'm worried about the same type of roller coaster as Fallout. So that's what I'm a little bit more worried about. So that's a question for you maybe. Do they go up in scale from Fallout? Or do they try and bring it down to those really tight suspense scenes like Ethan hanging on the wires, or, you know, the more intimate conversations with the bad guy like Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is, you know, one of the best I've ever seen. Where do they go? Do they go up or they go down? Because they're obviously recreating the same formula with McQuarrie, car chases in Europe, introducing new characters. So that's what I'm kind of wondering about 7.
You know what's crazy is this isn't the Fast and Furious world. So you can't have zombie cars. You can't have have The Rock falling 4 stories and living. So you need to stay relatively grounded. And after this helicopter chase and several of these stunts, you know what I think it has to be? It has to be that I'm fine with them repeating beats, because like the helicopter they used in 3, the helicopter they used in 2, the helicopter they used in 1 in the tunnel. I mean, that was pretty tough to beat the helicopter in the tunnel in 1. So as long as it's organic, I'm fine with repeated beats. As long as it's just not, we're going to have the largest car crash ever on film and 7,000 cars are going to explode at one time. Like, as long as if they don't go gimmick heavy with stunts and they keep the action and stunts organic that aid the plot, like Ghost Protocol hanging from the building aided the plot, I would say. Some of these big stunts, so I'm okay with them recycling as long as they're organic. I mean, look how many times Bond is recycled. You just got to build. I mean, Mad Max Fury Road was Stagecoach, basically one long chase scene. But you gotta, the action just needs to happen organically. It's fine to, I mean, I don't see them coming up with anything new. It just has to, a slight new spin on it. Like the bathroom fight. I didn't think Henry Cavill and Tom Cruise would lose. They lost, right? They got smoked. So as long as it's something like that, I think I can roll with it. Does that make sense? It just has to. They can't just go bigger for bigger sake, is what I mean.
Agree. They need to go big. I want to go back to my theory about why I love this movie so much is because it's in the little things. Because they went big, but they had so many little things, and maybe I would love to see more of this in the next one. Can I give you my top 3 little things on here?
Yeah. Do you got 5 or 3?
I got 5.
Yeah. Give me 5.
Give me 5. Okay. 1, I think a proper villain does not run. A villain should not be rushed because you don't look so menacing. You look way more menacing if you're walking. So one of my favorite parts is how Tom Cruise is running around like a madman on the roofs of these buildings, jumping over buildings, breaking out of windows, dropping 2 stories down. Whereas Henry Cavill is just going through a leisurely walk across London.
Yeah.
Not in any hurry whatsoever. At the end, Solomon Lane sees Ilsa Foss running toward the house, so he just slowly walks inside. It's so much more menacing when you're walking. And that's one of the things I love about it, because they could have had Cavill, or his character was Walker, and he was walking slowly. I thought it was kind of a funny name.
And he's the villain in a Tom Cruise running movie.
Yeah, so villains don't, if Tom Cruise is running, the villain should walk.
Yeah,
so I love this leisurely stroll throughout London.
And be called Walker.
Yeah. I wonder if they had that planned. There's no way. I guess it's just a coincidence. I loved how the bad guy Cavill had better lines than the funny character, Simon Pegg, as Benji. Cavill had way better lines in this one than Benji. Benji would carry, I think they learned on the third one, that third one wasn't really funny. I mean, Benji was kind of cool. He had a couple lab scenes, but none of the people in Cruise's crew were particularly funny. So it felt a little flat in the third one. I mean, Maggie Q was incredible, everyone else. But, yeah, they added the fourth one, and adding that humor element in 4 and 5 was excellent. But Cavill had the 3, I think, greatest lines I think in movie history, 3 successive lines, is when they were in the C-17 about to jump out over Paris. And then for one, they're like, 2 minutes to drop zone. And then they start putting on their equipment. I'm like, you're not going to put on any equipment until 2 minutes from the drop zone.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But Cavill pulls out Cruise's oxygen line, says, enough talk. I'll see you in Paris. He just jumps out the plane. And then the next one, they're falling down through the lightning storm. He's like, "What's the matter, Hunt? Afraid of a little lightning?" Like, what a bombastic thing to say. Of course, who would not be afraid of lightning?
Yeah.
And then he meets him on the roof and says, "Looks like you lost your oxygen."
He's sassy.
Yeah, I mean, those 3 lines were so perfectly the before, the during, the after, and just not showing any appreciation whatsoever. I think he had the best lines I've seen ever in a movie.
You know, they had another stunt added onto that. Like they were going to climb on these massive ropes over the party, and they actually did it. And then they break up the cable, and Tom Cruise flies like over onto a thing, and then he meets up with Walker, and he connects himself to Walker, and then they go flying across the dance floor, and then smash through a glass window. And that's a deleted scene. They shot
to watch it though.
Week-long scene that cost millions, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't need it. It's insane. Just want to give
the
it
director's recut."
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, it's on the Blu-ray. It's probably on the if you bought it, probably the digital extras on there. But sorry, I interrupted. So you got those scenes.
No, nice tip. All right, number 3. I love how they dressed up Cavill in a JCPenney or Men's Warehouse suit. You have this incredibly handsome man, probably the most handsome man in the world, and they put him in an obvious government suit that looks like one of your fursuits you would get from JCPenney. And the shirt was one of those, before you know how to dress, when you get the shirts that are kind of like this greenish gray or this purplish brown. It's like one of those weird, and the tie actually matches the shirt versus complimenting it. I love how they took him and put him in this cheap looking suit. So I thought that was just great how they did that. Whereas Ethan Hunt looks smooth and he's got the 2 buttons undone, and then you've got Walker in this like typical government suit. So I thought that was perfect.
No starch, no nothing. Just
nothing. Yeah. No tailoring.
Yeah.
It's kind of poofy on the sides. It doesn't quite fit right.
He's a Hammer, man. Hammers don't wear tailor suits. That's funny. That's a great pick. That's a great note. That's good costuming right there. That's layered stuff right there. And they think about all that. I bet you that's cool. That's really neat.
You know what other thing I loved about this too, that is part of it, but not part of the big stunts, was they went to the silent films for inspiration. I saw an interview with McQuarrie, how he went back to the old school movies. So they knew this was going global. So there was a language barrier. People would still know exactly what happened just by seeing it. Like, for example, I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Cruise made it into the first helicopter at the end for the first time. And instead of, as soon as he gets in there, instead of immediately fighting, they spent a good 3 seconds just staring at each other.
Wait, that's not him.
But they didn't have to spend 3 seconds just staring at each other out of disbelief.
It's good. Yeah, build time, catch the audience up. Yeah.
And it's funny because you see the guy like complete utter disbelief. Or there's times when Cruise knew he was about to get hurt, and he would do the typical Cruise rolling his eyes thing. Like when he got caught in the building, he had to cut his parachute and then fall 30 feet down the side of a building.
The Cruise, this is going to hurt face is wonderful.
Oh, like right before Cavill's character got knocked out in the bathroom scene and he had to fight the guy alone.
Oh, Cavill got wasted by that dude. Oh, I love that. That makes me so happy.
When he kicked him in the chest was the blow that knocked him out.
Yeah. Oh man. Dude, chest kicks are legit. Don't sleep on them.
No, that was a full-on chest kick. I mean, that was like full-on, all your body weight into it too. My other favorite part is, when they went to that club and the White Widow was giving that sexy talk at her party, her fundraiser, and they got in the fight with the assassins, and then as they were exiting the bar or the club, you had an assassin had a gun. So Ilsa Foss jumped up and did her patented leg move and knocked him down. And then another guy came up with a gun, and Cavill's character just knocks him out. And then you got the inspirational music played, and all 4 of them are just walking out all tough out of the club. And for that brief moment, you're like, this is a badass team. This is amazing. You feel good about this team for that 5 seconds.
That's a super
inspirational music. Yeah, that was probably my other favorite scene, just that when they walk out all triumphantly.
I'd be so pissed if Henry Cavill cheap shotted me. That would suck. I would not be a fan of that. So
the stuntman sold it. Stuntman sold it, punched in the face.
I mean, the best in the business work with Cruise. I mean, they can afford it, and these movies make money. So every technical thing about these movies is, so that sexy speech he was giving was a song. And
Really?
so they had her singing, and they're like, well, this makes no sense. Like, we know nothing about the character. So then they ADR'd all that dialogue. So like you can see her arms moving. Like, when she looks like she's singing. So if you watch it again closely, you'll see that she's singing a song as opposed to telling the story. So they just changed everything. They filmed a song number, and they're like, nah, that doesn't work for the story. Switch it. But you have to do it. And the editor on the commentary, the editor had to be on set at all times because he has to sit there like this, so they can redo it. So yeah, that her sexy speech was a sexy song.
And it was tied to the MI1 because she kept talking about her mom, Max.
Yeah.
But Max was the broker in the first Mission Impossible movie, the English woman.
Redgrave.
Yeah, you're right.
Vanessa Redgrave.
So I don't know what that connection is between Max and the first one and the White Widow in 6.
Right, so here's mine. My favorite small moment. I think Vanessa Kirby's like my favorite part of this. I just watched a movie. It's going to be on Netflix in January called Pieces of a Woman, and she might get Oscar nom for it. I watched it, and then they did an interview, and she crushes it. She's going to be like big, but I liked the scene when Tom Cruise is fighting the people, and she just smiles. She has this unhinged smile, and that for me was like the most interesting part. You have this arms dealer broker lady who has so many connections, really wealthy, but she was just loving that part. Like she dug.
Oh, you're right.
Like there's a scene where she smiles. She was
exhilarated.
Yeah,
she was exhilarated by the best smile is when they were in the car pulling up to her house and she looked over to him all wild-eyed.
Yeah, I don't know what her choices on this I love because like from what I read, she's a very instinctual actor. Like in Hobbs and Shaw, she wasn't supposed to kiss Dwayne Johnson in that scene. She just did it anyway. So she's very like instinctual. And so I dug the wild-eyed part of it. It really made the movie feel more alive because a lot of these characters are old hat right now and they can't really enjoy themselves too much because there's not much to enjoy. I mean, you're chasing down a nuclear bomb. So it's nice to watch that like unhinged smile. Like I like thrilling smile. So I like that. My second one was when they followed Hunt and when they're killing, like when they're explaining the plan and they have the camera on Hunt's back and they're killing all the guards and they're trying to rescue Lane. Mm-hmm. And so you don't quite know if it's Hunt at first, but then you slowly learn it's Hunt. But it's like a nice oneer on a Steadicam where all these cops are getting killed and you're like, this is happening? This is insane. And then you realize that it's all a plan. But I loved just the camera work behind him and then slowly learning that it was Hunt. It's a long take. It hits hard. It's quite brutal. And McQuarrie said, if you think about Rogue Nation, man, like the shirts in that and Ilsa's dress and the opera and the bright colors on the motorcycles and the suits and kind of the big action scenes like that, it was very brightly colored. Like it has more like life to it. It's brighter. So if McQuarrie said he would only come back if this movie was darker. So he came back and like that scene's pretty dark. He wanted a darker vibe. He didn't want as bright of colors. He wanted more, like not instead of a bright yellow dress, she's wearing a white dress. Like it's less vibrant. So he wanted a darker theme to it.
But it's dark and it's lighter at the same time because he shows into his character that he would never do that.
Yeah, it's cool though, right? It's a good moment. But it's well shot. I really like. And what's interesting is Rob Hardy. He works with one of my favorite directors, Alex Garland. And if you think about Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Devs, which is my favorite thing I've watched this year, they're very controlled, very static shots, very well thought out. It seems like the shots are more a product of Garland and the way he wants his story told. So it must be interesting for Hardy to work on this movie. Go, no, change that. So this was probably really good for him to be on this. But I love that shot. And also,
can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
Is there any other movies that have done something similar where you have a vision of something that's going to happen? The only one I could think of was the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. and how he was so smart he could see what would happen. Is there any other movies that had a vision of how something would go down?
Shaun of the Dead did that. Remember in 2004, we're going to go to the house and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then we're going to come through. Yeah. But that editing, I was watching a movie the other day, and there's scenes that were I'm not saying Edgar Wright didn't establish those kind of edit cuts, but yeah, I mean that's pretty interesting. Like True Lies, remember when he envisions killing somebody, and then it flashes back and it's not him killing somebody? When Bill Paxton manages smashing his face,
Yeah, good
So,
call.
I mean, not to that extent though, and I really enjoyed that shot. I'm going to combine